Thank you. Well, thank you for coming today. I'm going to talk a little bit sort of about the history of the company and where we come from, what we're trying to achieve, as well as talking about the sort of shift to self-learning, self-defending networks, and some of the trends that we're starting to see at Darktrace. So just a little bit of history about the company. We were founded in 2013 by mathematicians from the University of Cambridge. It's grown pretty fast. Just a few of the awards that we have won. It's just a sort of testament to the technology that is coming out of our R&D facilities. Just looking at the sort of the existing threat landscape, as I'm sure a lot of you know, this is changing quite dramatically. It's not the case of just having on-premise networks anymore. We have a lot more sort of hybrid networks. We have cloud, we have software as a service, we have IoT, and the complexity of those networks makes it very, very difficult to defend. And also you're having to rely on a lot of products to get you that full coverage. And coupled with the fact that you're having a rise year on year, as everyone knows, in the volume of potential threats and attacks. And this is where Darktrace has taken a very fundamentally different approach, is that we don't rely on sort of rules and signatures to determine what is bad within a network. We're looking for unusual behaviors in the network. That's what the sort of fundamental difference is for Darktrace, so that we can understand how we can deal with sort of new and novel threats. So this brings us on to our sort of cyber AI platform, and this effectively is consisting of the enterprise immune system, which is our core monitoring tool, and that is giving you full coverage across your sort of cloud, SaaS, email, IoT, and sort of network. So it covers the entire of your digital estate, as well as our autonomous response capabilities in email and network, in cloud, SaaS, and IoT, to give you that full coverage. And effectively, our AI deploys into the core of the network, and what it's trying to do is trying to understand, what is normal, what is abnormal. Just to very, very simplistically, say there was a person who's working in the finance team, they came in at sort of 9 in the morning, they went on to their sort of, checked their emails, browsed the web, pull down certain files, but then something very strange was happening in the background. Say they downloaded sort of an executable, and say something was happening in the background of the device, and there was some beaconing out to sort of command and control infrastructure, or there was some port scanning or IP scanning, or there's some lateral movement. Darktrace's mathematics would then pick this up as very unusual for this particular device, and that is how we are there to pick up the new and sort of novel threats, rather than relying on rules and signatures to determine what is bad within a network. So also we have the sort of the autonomous response sort of capabilities, and for us this is really, really important. And we've been talking about this for sort of 3 years, and I think Gartner now has said that autonomous response is the way forward. I think for a lot of people in the cybersecurity industry, everyone knows there is a skills shortage in the industry, and it's very, very difficult to hire and keep highly qualified people. So this is where we really believe is the future, and it's the autonomous response and automating as much as possible in the process. And so this is what we call our anti-GNIF. If I talk a little bit about how we apply this in the network, is that we're taking very, very specific actions within the network to basically ensure that device is going back to its normal behavior. And blocking the unusual connections that are happening in the network. But critically, we'll still be allowing access to, for example, a domain controller, so that device can still go about its usual pattern of life. And the important thing about this is that it's targeted. It has to be targeted to ensure that business continuity. It also allows the time for humans to catch up. I think everyone last year was thinking ransomware was almost dead, and it certainly had a resurgence this year. So this is where it's very, very critical to have that autonomous, rapid response to allow human teams to catch up and deal with the problems. just want to talk about some of the things that we see every day. We have this really interesting sort of screen around all the offices around the world, which basically just highlights some of the finds of the week, and they're just shown to our sort of employees to show what our technology is doing. And, we see anything from sort of cryptocurrency mining to IoT hacks. We had a very interesting case in Kazakhstan where there was actually a malicious actor there's a manufacturing plant, and to get access to this manufacturing plant, it's a very sensitive sort of industry, you had to have a fingerprint scanner. And the criminals, they'd actually uploaded their own fingerprints to the system so they could gain physical access to the building. I think this is actually the first time a criminal has voluntarily uploaded their own fingerprints. And I think that was probably one of our most talked about. As well as in the US, when we have an employee who had a Tesla car and was connecting into the corporate Wi-Fi and was using the Tesla car to exfiltrate data. I was a client yesterday, and it's a sort of financial research company, and they'd actually had one of their employees at the weekend was bit mining from their device, using up a lot of the company's resources. So we find some really interesting hacks and threats, which is fascinating. We're also starting to see, some AI-based attacks actually coming in, because it's so easy. You can go onto the sort of the dark web. You can buy a ransomware kit for $20 to $200. You can buy malware kits, and now we're actually even starting to see AI-based threats. So that's one which is trying to understand, if you're looking at a phishing attack, which methods work, which wording gets the biggest results, which sort of understanding of the email traffic understands what is the right approach to get into that network, and they'll use that again to apply it to other networks. So the emergence of the AI-based threats is quite alarming. And quite interestingly, we had our conference in sort of Barcelona, and some of our R&D were giving a few little insights. I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to talk about, and they were talking about how they actually how they train the Darktrace's AI. They effectively have a defensive AI and an offensive AI, and they pit them together. And obviously, the Darktrace software, which we sell and our clients use, is that defensive AI. And then they have an offensive AI, which they're pitting against each other to try and improve the quality of them. And apparently, the offensive AI that they have developed in the Darktrace labs is pretty dangerous, and they've obviously had to pull it back. It just gives you the scale of, once an AI starts learning a system from malicious attempts, how dangerous it could possibly be. So the only way to defend against it is using AI. I know it's a bit of a buzzword in the industry, though. So applying AI techniques in the real world, this is also very difficult, because every single company is different, every network is different, the resources, the manpower. Some people have 50-man SOC teams. Some smaller companies might have a one-man IT team. So using AI is an effective way of sort of almost leveling the playing field slightly. And just a look into some of the attacks that we are seeing and resurging. One is certainly ransomware, especially in the US this year. Still highly profitable. Again, it's so easy to download sort of ransomware kits from the dark web. But also now you can hire people to be more specific with the campaigns, to specifically target certain industries, rather than just firing it out there. They're becoming more targeted and more dangerous. And again, sort of the noisy attacks are they aren't hard to find. But what about the sort of the slow and low type of attack, especially ones like the British Airways, which was in the network for about 270 days, I believe. This was sort of malware which was fairly benign for a long bit of the time. And just an example, you might have a malware in the network which is quiet for a couple of weeks, but then wakes up and then connects to its command and control infrastructure, says, "Hey, I'm here. Like, what's my next instruction?" And then goes back to sleep for another couple of weeks, wakes up, does something else. It might start to scan a few other devices, understand which areas it can talk to. That's an area which I can potentially target. Go back to sleep again, then waking up and then start trying to brute force entry into an area of the network. And these slow and low type attacks are very, very difficult to pick up in a network, especially in a noisy network. So the reliance of AI is so important to correlate all these weak indicators together to build up a stronger picture of what's happening within the network. And also, we're obviously seeing a lot of our clients on that digital transformation, migrating to the cloud. And these have certain obviously the advantage of the clouds, the much greater resource, but what interesting we found at Darktrace is that malicious actors are using the benefits of the cloud to their own advantage, and that mainly is coming in the form of bit mining, because they can use a lot higher resource. So we've seen a lot of bit mining resulting in a lot of clients' clouds, which has been a really interesting development, which is something I don't think we probably saw about a year ago. Just to conclude, AI is sort of absolutely paramount to dealing with sort of cybersecurity, especially given the sort of the human resource limitations. So it's incredibly important to use AI in cybersecurity. And that is it. We also do have a stand, so if you want to find out a little bit more, come and chat to us.
Sam, thank you very
Brilliant.
much indeed.